Hello and welcome back to another episode of For Azeroth. I am one of your hosts, the true villain Manny, or just Manny, and I am joined by the other two parts of the Triumvirate. First, joining us from the woods in the north, not quite north, we have Lex Rants.
Oh, Manny, how are you and how's the World of Warcraft treating you?
I'm doing okay. I think we decided that every episode we would put you in a different state. So, how are things going in cold, wintry Puerto Rico?
They're going amazing down here in Puerto Rico. As I'm sure everyone knows, am a Giants fan, and also this might surprise you guys, play World of Warcraft. So the fact that Cam Scataboo is officially a World of Warcraft player is making my entire life.
You say funny words, funny man. Going to Sean, who might understand what in the world she's talking about. Hello, Sean. How are you doing?
Hi, Manny. I'm doing pretty good. Lex, are we friends because I look like Brian Dable?
He's not a giant anymore, Sean.
Not anymore.
So I guess we're not friends anymore.
Oh, well, we had a good run.
This poor man fell so far. Like, coach of the year to fired in like 3 years.
That'll happen when you don't win a game. When they started 2-8 3 years in a row. Not a recipe for success. This is now an NFL podcast, fam. No, Manny, I'm doing good. I think you asked me how the Warcraft's been treating me. Warcraft's been treating me good. Spent a little time on the beta today, messing around with my UI. Have to say, got up to a spot that I'm pretty happy with. Still one or two things that I really would like to see addressed, but overall, not displeased with where we're at. I'm sure we'll talk about the beta launch after, so we won't get into that. And also, special shout out to the Faz community who took it upon themselves to start finally, after I don't know how many episodes of me asking, recommending names for what we call the Faz community. Can I just we have a list running. We're going to do an official vote. Now, Manny hasn't agreed to this yet, but Manny doesn't make all the rules. We're going to do an official vote in the Faz Discord at some point. We don't know when yet. To vote on what we call the Faz family. And here's the options we have currently. Faznatics. I'm going to try not to give my opinion on any of these. I don't want to sway the vote when it happens.
Do you want me to say it so it's flat?
Yeah, let's do that. That's good. Yeah, you say it with the disdain that you've been reading them to yourself all week.
No. We're gonna call it down the line. Where is this again? Is this in our suggestions?
Suggestions, yeah. And then I'll pin it, but it's
I got it already. Just anybody who wants to throw in, it's in the Faz Discord, bit.ly/Faz Discord, and then I'm going to go through the potential listener tags. We have Faznatics, Fazaholics, Fazers, Fazians, Fazheads, Faz Family, Fazerothians, Faz Hands, which I have earmarked for people that we're going to hire as like support staff, so I've slightly vetoed that. Faz Holes and True Villain Fazzies.
So many.
And so there you go. I was very neutral on that. I may have put a little emphasis on Faz Hands, but that was not disdain. That was neutral.
Faz Hands. Yeah, I'm excited. So it's been a good day, and we had a good showing on Monday on the house. The person who came and looked at it looked at 6 houses that day, and I through the grapevine, our realtor told us that our house is their favorite of the ones they looked at. And today they asked how much our property taxes were, which I guess is typically a sign that they're considering making an offer. No offer yet, but House Watch is still a go, but it's in spirits are high right now. Oh, and Angelique came to visit for 2 days.
Do you guys not do the little thing where you have like a little sheet and it lists out like, to your knowledge, have there ever been rodents? How much how do you get your heat? How much do you pay per month on average? Do you know of any like history of flooding? Like, do you guys not have that cute little sheet?
No, we do. That's PCDS, personal or property something disclosure. Yeah, or PDCS maybe. PDS, maybe it's just PDS, property disclosure sheet. We do have those. They have not requested one, so if they don't ask for one, we don't provide one. All they asked was they have to ask for it to get it.
I guess I don't know if I assume that they were just provided automatically to me, but it might just be that my like realtor was like hot.
Your realtor should be asking. Yeah. That's just genuinely smart.
Yeah.
Anyways,
they're good if the person has been sorry. Anybody who's here for Warcraft talk, skip ahead to 13 minutes. I'm sure it'll be there. but we will certainly be done the house talk by then. What was I saying? The realtor, the PDS.
Yeah.
Oh, so the disclosure sheets are great. If somebody has lived in the house for a long time, because they can answer those questions. We've been here 3 years, so we'd be able to answer a few of them. But we can't go into our house is 112 years old. So when they're like, has there been any history of flooding? I don't know. There wasn't in the last 3 years, but I can't tell you what happened before that. And then if you're buying a house that was a flip, if somebody bought it and flipped it, those are almost entirely useless because they never lived in the house. They have no way to answer those questions. So while they are good to get and definitely good to ask, because especially if the person's lived in the home for a long time, they're not always super relevant. So.
Yeah, my house was like kind of iffy because it was being sold by the previous owner had passed away a couple of years ago, and so it was their kid selling it. So like some of it, obviously they'd known since like it was their mom and they grew up here. But some of it they were just like, I don't know what you paid for heat in a month. Like,
yeah. Okay. All right, Manny. If we want to do the actual show, it's 100. Yeah, we got. So Epi's in the chat and he's in the UK. He heard 112 years old and he's like, oh, you have a new house. Because all the houses in Britain that didn't get destroyed during the World War II bombing are like 400 years old.
Well, that might be where you come from. Your mileage may vary, but let's say we're gonna put that aside, and we're gonna get into World of Warcraft because there is a lot of news to talk about. Yes, Hearthstone is a thing. Moving on, we are getting the warning overlooked. The community is focused on the beta, but there is 11.2.7 coming in under the radar. So that is going to be titled The Midnight Prologue, The Warning, and that is due out December 2nd in NA and December 3rd in the EU. It's got a number of things, including a quest storyline that includes Varissa Windrunner. Apparently they're just inventing Windrunner sisters all of a sudden instead of the two that we know. And Erator investigating visions and prophecies. As part of that content update, we're going to be allowed to get into housing in live, which means all those people who are fuming about Hearthstone will suddenly open up their wallets and not care anymore. We will be getting an updated new player experience, which is good for returning players or new players alike. It's going to get you up to speed. That includes a revamped Exiles... What is it called? Exiles Isle?
Exiles Reach.
Exiles Reach, thank you. The story through Dragonflight, the revamped experience of going through the War Within, all of that is going to be available. We will also be getting early access to housing, like I said. The new lore walking quests have been updated, where we get 2 new quests that are about stuff relevant to Midnight. So we've got the Lich King and his assault on the Sunwell, the last time the Sunwell was assaulted. And we've got the tainting of the Sunwell by Illyria Windrunner and the creation of the Void Elves. So there's a lot of things there. Pandarians, you're finally getting your heritage armor. And I believe that is all of the races now with heritage armor, with the Pandarians completed. You guys could double check, but I believe that to be the case. Time walking. Turbulent Timeways is returning. 10 weeks of time walking, folks. Set your calendars from December 2nd. Do 10 weeks, and you know we're not getting the new expansion before then. That includes 6 new dungeons that are going to be from Shadowlands. And new rewards, so we'll get the new mounts that come from Shadowlands and such from there. If you like transmog, pets and such, that'll be there. And something near and dear to my heart, the Brawlers Guild is coming back. It is a delayed release on that, time gating, whatever buzzword you want to use. That is coming on December 9th. There will be some new bosses. There will be a revised encounter order. And there are going to be new rewards, including a new rendition of Bruce. I'm hoping the old rendition of Bruce will come back because I missed one of those Bruce versions. And housing decor as well. Housing decor rewards already being put into stuff. So that's a lot of things to tide us over in the winter holidays. Are you guys excited for this, or is your mind squarely focused on beta right now? Let's start with you, Lex.
I'm really excited about this. So I think I might have mentioned on the show, when I do beta, I'm trying very hard to avoid story. I want that to be something like I understand that I'm going to experience spoilers as a creator, but I would like the actual experience of the story to be something that I experience live with my friends. So there's not a ton that I do on the beta. Like I log in to test individual things, be like, oh, I'm curious about Prey, or like, oh, I want to see how this system's going to work, or how this system's going to work. But it's not like I'm spending hours on beta. I'm kind of just, yeah, I suppose obviously more so alpha, but that's the mindset I'm going to bring into beta. It's like, oh, if I'm curious about something I want to be able to talk about with my friends, or talk about on for Azeroth with my friends, then I should pop into beta. So I am really feeling the content lull right now, right? I don't have a ton of like gathering or side things I do. I'm really pretty hyper fixated on AOTC, and we got AOTC. And so I'm finding it harder and harder to convince myself to log in, and having story and beginning to access housing and do things like that and feel like World of Warcraft is alive again, I think is going to be really good. And I do also know this is going to be a long lull, and it always is before expansions. I mean, just because, if we're saying at least 10 weeks, that's mid-February. It's mid-November. So that's what? Oh my God, why can't I do basic math? Like 3 months? At least?
Yeah. We'll count the mid-February and mid-November as 1 month. Then you add December and January in there, and you're at 3 months, yeah?
Yeah. So, I mean, it'll be the holidays. There'll be plenty to do. But I am really happy that we're going to be getting some fun stuff relatively soon.
I like that it is all pickup experiences. It's not something that I need to work weeks on. So in that way, like as I'm away for holidays and visiting friends and family, more friends than family, I will definitely be less scheduled with my WoW time, with my play time in video games in general. And so like, yeah, being able to be like, hey, I got some time, let me jump in and do Brawler's Guild or one of these lore walking I think this is the right content for the time if you're focused on live. Sean, any impressions on your end?
I'm really excited for the lore walking experience. I enjoyed the 3 that we got at launch of lore walking. And anytime we get a chance to talk about the Sunwell and Arthas and the elves, I'm all for that. I am the opposite. I feel like we're moving at breakneck speeds. I can't believe you think there's a lull right now. I feel like 11.2.5 just came out, and maybe that's because of the weird the weird delay on Turbo Boost being unlocked. And yeah, I just feel like you guys oh, it's, we're moving so fast.
I was neutral. I didn't say anything in terms
no, sorry,
of...
Lex saying we're in a lull right now. I just don't feel that at all. I am actively engaged in the beta, so maybe that helps to why I don't feel that way.
You also do Legion Remix, which I haven't been doing.
Yeah, that's true. But that's like an hour, maybe 3 to 4 times a week.
You can help me drag myself through Legion Remix. Man, do I need help. Anyways, Keep going.
So I don't know. There's still a lot of work that needs to happen on the add-on situation in UI and beta, and I don't think 3 months is enough time.
Sorry, let me make one clarification to what I said. There is a lull that is healthy and normal between expansions. In fact, and I do agree that content is coming out really quickly, and I think probably too fast. I am still deeply on team, like, be realistic with yourself, delay. A late release is better than a bad release. Like, FazDev, do not go to Ian Hazakostas, who I'm sure cares deeply about what I say, and be like, Lex said that she feels like there's a lull. We gotta push it up. Like, I stand by everything I've said before. I think this is moving too quickly. I worry about how much they intend to do in the next few months. I worry about how quickly they're putting out content in general. And based on my playstyle and what I'm focusing on, I don't really see a ton in the next, 3 or 4 months.
You're not jumping on housing?
So I am excited about 11.2.7. I think that, and I actually do think housing is probably going to be one of my, I think that it's going to be my Legion, or my remix, where I kept saying I'm not going to be interested in it. And I think that once I have more things that hopefully fit together better, and that are more stable, like it feels like I'm building something versus just like going in and like playing with stuff. knowing that it's gonna be deleted in, a month. I think that is going to be very exciting for me, and I think I'm gonna have a lot of fun organizing, sprucing things up.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, Epidemi in chat is saying that like housing might be what brings them back to retail. I've seen some people who have been playing on the beta and so forth, really being like, oh my goodness, this is my WoW now in its entirety. So there's definitely some people who are super excited about it. I've got to try it. Like full disclosure, guys, I have played all of 0 seconds of housing throughout alpha and beta, and like I had people like pushing and asking questions and stuff, and I just could not be bothered. Maybe, but unlikely, I try it and I go, oh my goodness, this is everything. But we'll see. Again, different strokes for different folks. But that leads us to the thing that has been pulling more of my time and definitely more of Sean's time. We have the Midnight Beta itself, which was released this week on the masses because the servers definitely couldn't handle it. So there was a mass of something going on. And that was unleashed to everybody who had pre-ordered. Your accounts were flagged over the course of the day, and I believe everybody who has ordered should be in now. If not, do contact Blizzard.
If you pre-ordered the digital edition.
Correct. Yes. If you pre-ordered the digital edition. If you have pre-ordered a collector's or physical edition, I don't believe that they've done any way of sending those codes out in time. We also did a giveaway right here for Azeroth. We had 3 lucky winners that won on our Twitter account, on the YouTube comments, and of course on Instagram as well. And considering how successful it is, we will be doing another one of those again. So if you are not currently in the Midnight Beta, if you are looking to get yourself a digital code, we'll definitely be doing another giveaway soon before the end of the year. So stay tuned for that. With that said, let's talk about the beta. Sean, let's hand this out to you.
Yeah, so the beta launched on Tuesday to fanfare. Servers got bodied. There was a lot of issues with lag, with disconnections, and I didn't be able to get in. Character copies were non-functional at the beginning. Workarounds started to develop. Blizzard rolled out a number of hot fixes, and the latency ensued. Even through to today, there's been a couple of rolling restarts on the realms, and they've been applying stuff to the servers to try and fix it. Folks are still, if you get through the intro portion, the Sumwell intro portion, if you get through that, which I did with almost, like, I had some lag, but it wasn't unplayable for me. But there are people who it's unplayable for. But as soon as you get through the intro version, go back to Orgrimmar, Stormwind, or Dornogal, turn on War Mode, and then go back to Sunwell, because there's only like 6 of us with War Mode on. And then the latency is gone, basically. So that's what I did. I got that tip from Mr. GM, which worked out really well. On a side note to that, if you're running around the beta in War Mode, attacking people who are questing in the Eversong Woods, you can get launched into the sun, big bad.
What? No. No. If you're in War Mode, do your War Mode.
No.
Like, fly.
Yeah,
friend,
you
fly.
guys are
You
the
do
ones.
what you want.
When
You do what makes
You're
you happy.
infiltrating. You're the ones infiltrating War Mode for your own purposes and taking it away from the people who want to do War Mode.
When
They deserve their
people-
War Mode spaces. Don't gentrify them.
When people are actively using War Mode as a way to bypass the latency, and you know that they are,
They can get stabbed in
There's
full
zero
4K,
reason. And
120
even on-
frames, baby.
and even on top of that, if you're in War Mode because you love PvP and you love the fight, and you attack somebody who doesn't attack you back,
Then you
There's
get
free
sick
baby.
honor.
Farm that
Oh,
honor.
no.
You're gonna
I
need it
hate-
for the end game.
if I was Homelander, I would fly to each of those people's homes and I-beam them.
That seems like a lot of PvP war mode for somebody who's being so fascist. Are you sure that you
I
wouldn't
would.
jump down at them in your little cloud car, jump out and use the insignia on your belly to Care Bear stare at them?
Listen, the Care Bears were gangsters, all right? I won't It won't take less than that. Anyway, war mode, we'll get rid of some of that latency, but lots of stuff's going on. Transmog is turned off currently. So the new transmog system's coming into place. And before anybody panics, if you happen to have the script that lets you look at the transmog window and see the current placeholder for what the cost of a single transmog outfit is, please keep in mind it is just a placeholder, and Blizzard hasn't officially said that it will cost us 40,000 gold per outfit.
You know, they likely did that to prevent people, or like even if people found it, to deter them from activating a system that they don't want in use right now.
Like I said, it's just a placeholder, so please don't panic if you see that. It hasn't been reported anywhere yet, so hopefully we can avoid the pissing of blood that we normally see when people get information that is only half of the story.
I gotta ask though, what would you say is a fair price, considering the new transmog system is like almost set it and forget it?
Yeah, I think between 5,000 and 10,000 is probably fair per outfit, especially because you're not slot,
per
but
outfit.
The outfit. Yeah.
Yeah,
because
you're multiple outfits. I can see that. All right, yeah.
Yeah, because you're gonna want, because you can have a separate outfit for Warband. You can have a separate outfit for Warband screen. You can have a separate outfit for housing. You can have a separate outfit for in major cities. Because of this reason, people are gonna want to have, and like I have, if you go look through right now through my transmog, I have like 32 outfits just on my paladin, like just my paladin, and then every other character I have a lot of them. So I think between 5,000 and 10,000 is probably reasonable. If you go through an experience of questing, you're going to be upgrading your transmog more often, typically. So, even if you look at, say, between 500 and 800 gold per transmog, like that you do every time you change an outfit, between 500 and 800 gold, I think 10,000 feels reasonable. That's like the equivalent of, 20 different times of fully transmogging. I think 40,000 is cost prohibitive. I think that's awful. I think 40,000 would be an awful choice personally. Okay. But it's just a placeholder for now. That just feels like so now if you want to have a transmog for each of the 4 different ways that you can have it, now we're looking at like 160,000 gold, like just for transmog. Like you would have to transmog so often to get to that value. You know what I mean? So I think between 5,000 and 10,000 per outfit is fair. So, but I think it's on a slot basis, per slot basis. So whatever the equivalent of that breaks down to. Personally, that's what I think.
Yeah, I agree with Sean. As the resident doesn't actually make money girl, I think that's a level that does actually, like, you will get that amount just doing general content. So it's going to be enough that people aren't like switching every 10 minutes. I mean, unless they have a ton of gold. But, it'll feel like you did something, like you paid for something, but it won't feel like, oh my God, I guess I can't transmog this season. Like, honestly, 40,000, I would be seriously considering whether I wanted to set a transmog. 5 to 8, whatever. Like, I wouldn't do what I do right now, where I change my transmog every single, raid night. But yeah, I totally can have a few going with that.
So that's happening right now in the beta. There's no level 90 pre-built characters yet, so you are going to have to level through the story. If you're somebody who's wanting to avoid that, get to level 81, and then you can just farm follower dungeons for experience. It will take you longer, but you can do it. They have improved the follower dungeon AI, it seems like, in this build from what it was on the previous alpha builds. So that's good. They made some more damage meter adjustments. We can now see damage taken as one of the items tracked. The damage meter itself is still not functional, but we can see the things that it will track, and then we just have to assume we're going to be able to drill down on those. Raid frames not yet implemented, and still the external defensives tracker not functioning the way everybody thought it was going to function. Still functioning just as a tracker. Still no debuff tracking. Hopefully all that stuff comes in a later build. And I know it's not in the show notes, but I would like to talk about Ian, because we talked about last week some of the AI or the UI stuff, and Ian made a post on Reddit replying to comments from the interview that he had with, or the meeting that he had with DBM and Bigwigs. And I'd like to talk about that just for a second, because I think it sort of fits here in with the beta and the UI stuff. And that's Ian. So we had talked about last week that Ian had stated that they didn't want to have an audio counter counting down from 5 to 1 when a mechanic was happening, because they Ian didn't want add-ons to have that functionality because it would feel mandatory. He felt that if we were going to have an audio counter counting down from 5 to 1, that it should be built into the game. But they currently don't intend to do that because they plan to have it so that their own visual and audio cues in the terms of the boss speaking should be enough to give you this information without needing that countdown. And then if it's not working, the team, always has the option to include it. And I do want to get your thoughts on it. I am bewildered by that statement because the combat warning timer literally gives us a countdown from 5 to 1 for the abilities in visual format on the screen. So I don't understand the difference between letting us read it and letting us hear it, and how one is an advantage and one isn't.
Audio noise is different than visual noise. If I had to go with anything, if you have multiple countdown timers going, like the bars, you can look at one and isolate it and be like, okay, that's the one going through. If you have multiple voices going off that are all counting down, being able to figure out which one is which is too much audio noise. So that's one thing. They would need to then change it to be like, this one actually talks, but this one doesn't in such a situation, which is, in my mind, then becoming a Pandora's box, and that might be why they're doing it. That said, if that is the reason, I would rather they say that, and then we deal with the realities of that confusion rather than what was put forward. But like, there are different levels of information that people can absorb that differs based on not only the person that is getting that information, but the type of way that it is coming at you. So whereas some people are visual learners, some people are tactile learners, some people are auditory learners, all of that also factors into the way that the UI sometimes screams at you. If it is a boss ability, and this is sometimes harder to do in a council fight than in a single boss encounter. Like, I can still remember in my dreams, in my nightmares, right, where somebody would be like, break yourself upon my body, and I go like, okay, I better throw a dot on so it gets bounced back to me. Like, I know that immediately. I can't name that boss, but that one voice line, I can say that was Stonecore. I can say it was the big giant, right? I can say that he throws up a shield at that point, and then you need to reflect damage on yourself because you've been given a debuff that after a certain period of time petrifies you. And if you don't take damage to break that debuff, you won't be able to run out, and he'll one-shot you. And I know that. And I've never needed a countdown timer for that. I've never needed a visual thing for that because I can immediately link that voice line. And if they can design things like that, then I guess I don't need a countdown timer. But that is 100% Blizzard putting the onus on themselves. And the accessibility conversations sometimes get lost in that. And I guess, as an aside, flat out, anybody who can hear me now, okay? We talk about ideals. We talk about accessibility and making sure that point of views are considered, that people who have those point of views, as many point of views as possible and perspectives as possible, are in the room having that conversation. But I also need to ask people not to fall for a Nirvana complex, okay? It is ideal that we have as many perspectives in the room as possible. We often fall short of the ideal, right? Sean, Lex, and myself will always say that we want you to get your opinion out there because every point of view should be there. This entire show is built to have different point of view, right? So get your perspective, regardless of how you play, to the developers, but also get it to us. I would love to have a more informed perspective based on what somebody says to me that is like, okay, hey, you know what? I hadn't considered that, and I'll think about that going in the future, and that will give me just a far more informed opinion, and I'll be thankful for it. But I need people to stop trying to say that, hey, because this can't be done perfectly, we shouldn't have this conversation at all. If you want to push and say like, hey, this is a better way of doing it that helps this perspective, that's a constructive conversation. If you try and shut down a conversation because it doesn't perfectly align with your perspective, I don't want to have that conversation. And that's what I want to preface this with. That said, I think there's a lot of different things that they need to consider, including how much information overload they put in there. If we've got 20 different timers going off and all these spell effects, they all get lost. That's why we started turning down spell effects on people that weren't us or the boss. Same thing with audio cues. I cannot have 5 different countdown timers going at the same time. I will lose it. And so I'm looking for something cleaner, and I think just distinctive voice lines that I can then go like, that's that ability, or that's 5 seconds ahead of that ability, and I can sort of learn that. I think that is something strong. Otherwise, they're going to have to, and they do that as voice lines anyways, but I don't think that works with a generic encounter timer.
That's a fair point. I don't know exactly how I'd fix it. I think I have a few points I'm going to probably make in relatively rapid succession, as I love to do. I love a monologue.
I monologued. Go ahead.
Let's go. So the first thing I'd say is I think that's true about the voice lines. That could be really useful. I do think that Blizzard has a tendency to fall into a little bit of a trap where they'll make an accessibility feature and be like, look, it'll work. It's just harder, right? Like, yeah, you can learn to count down from the voice line and figure out exactly how long it's going to take after the voice line goes to the spell cast, and learn to count that every single time. That's totally doable. It is significantly harder than people who can, have the visual processing at the level where they could easily look at a countdown timer who's going to have that, the first time they run in. Although, I think this is kind of Blizzard struggling with the, if they're going to cut things, they are putting themselves, if they're going to say, we have to, we are not going to give you options to only have certain timers, to only announce certain things. You cannot go in and change the voice line for XYZ, or, you can't change how this is presented versus this is presented. You have to, it's all or nothing, or you can maybe get an add-on that's going to filter a few things out, but it's really it's the on or off. You're kind of right that they are saying, well, if you're going to do, we have to do every single countdown. And so if there's multiple spells going, you're going to have one voice doing a 15-second countdown and one voice on the 5-second of the last 10-second countdown. Yeah, that's right. That's going to be a monstrously chaotic. And I think that they are, I kind of keep falling
on themselves.
Right. And I keep falling back on the same frustration that I think I was talking about last week. Sorry, to preface it, I have a tendency to talk to myself a lot. And so sometimes I forget what I said on the podcast when I just said in my mirror. So if I ever say yeah, the thing I said last week, and you're like, Lex, you did not say that. That's because it was all me, babes. But I feel like we had this game that was particularly accessible because we had all of these options. And I understand the argument Blizzard is making for why they're choosing to take away the options, but it is taking World of Warcraft from one of the most accessible games, I think, arguably ever, right? Due to the sheer customization ability of add-ons, to one that is just going to exclude certain people. Ian openly said that he thinks that being able to, visual processing is a requirement of rating, right? That he is not just him. It's not like this. He is the only person making these decisions, but he is the name that we have. That is a requirement of high level content, which does mean that people who historically have been able to play World of Warcraft are no longer, they are determining that they cannot do high level content, right? There's no way around that if that's the determination you're making.
They can no longer do high level content in the way that it is designed now, right?
Right, but if they're saying they're unwilling to make a game, if they're saying it's a hard line for them, they will not make a game that doesn't, high level content that does not require visual processing. Mm-hmm. Blind players can't, that inherently excludes blind players. If visual processing is a mandatory aspect of rating and of Mythic Plus, which they've stated it that's part of their ethos. That does just cut people out.
So the game already cuts people out at a certain point. The game cuts you out. If you are like 100% blind, they do not have like they used to have like back in Wrath where it would be these markers that would be 3D projected and you could tell how close you were to something, and based on programming now you'd be able to like get some sort of auditory warning when you're close, when you're facing something, that sort of thing. And in that way, the programming that we have now with the limitations that didn't exist back then, the game was more accessible, right? But I don't think that is a fair line to draw, because the same people who created that would use that to utterly trivialize so much of the game that they would then design around it or lock it out, which they ended up locking out. They would then design around it so as not to design a game that would be trivial to somebody with a certain set of abilities and therefore make it impossible for somebody else. So like this sort of, it becomes impossible for a segment of the audience to play, is always a battle back and forth between like the power of the add-ons, whether for accessibility or just raw power for other means, and what the developers have to do with that power in mind. If they bring the baseline and the highest potential closer together, that variance, right? Because what basically they've been trying to do, they don't need to design with so many hoops to jump. It doesn't need to be that you get an ability and you need to already have been pre-spread. That means that the countdown timer isn't as necessary, right? You could get an ability on you and with some limited vision, know that it's on you, because the graphics are basically unignorable to most vision, and then you have time to move away in a reasonable time. Whereas if you had the custom timer and you had the thing that measured how far you need to be, they'd have to be like, no, we need something to force them to collapse, and we need to get them to, and they need to pre-spread immediately, right? As just an example off the top of my head, again, I'm not a designer and everything, but like what the game requires of us today is at a different level than what the game required of us 5-10 years ago, because they keep having to, they feel, even if you don't agree that they have to, escalate according to what tools the community has embraced.
That's fair. And the other thing that I do want to just like point out is that I'm speaking for a community I'm not a part of. And I actually haven't heard, like, since the big Undaunted post, I don't know that I've heard specifically from people who will be affected by this. So I'm kind of speaking vibes based. And so I don't know, right? I actually haven't, like, I haven't read up on what people are feeling right now about the loss of add-ons. This is my able-bodied view of what, like, how it looks to me. But it's possible that if I were to be, you know, talking with folks in the blind community, they would be like, nah, actually, like this, yeah, like what you're describing, Manny, like if somebody was playing World of Warcraft now, if they do, like nobody's playing who wouldn't be able to see, like, who wouldn't have some visual processing. I genuinely do not know. So and one other thing that I've said a few times, I think, is I actually think I'm going to have more fun with this system. I'm concerned about how it's going to cut other people out, but like realistically, yeah, I would rather that, you know, there's more things that I'm learning and figuring out on my own time. And that we do have the ability to do these like blind dungeon or blind raids that are truly blind. And it isn't just like, oh yeah, like it's blind, but also DBM's in your ear telling you to spread. So how blind is it? Right? Like that is actually really fun for me. And that's a fun way to play. And I'm excited to see how that's going to, you know, challenge me as a raid leader. The one other thing I do want to say, though, Sean brought this up in a YouTube video that is on our page, so go check it out if you're wondering what I'm talking about. That the way that Ian is talking feels very similar to Shadowlands and the concept of like pulling the ripcord. And that is something that I think is resonating with me a lot with my like frustrations with Blizzard right now. Is I think, and I said a few times like, oh, it's crazy that, you know, a year ago or not a year, an expansion ago, we were all so excited about what Blizzard was doing and feeling like they were so responsive and listening so much. And now all of a sudden we're, you know, flipped, and Sean and I are talking about how frustrated we are with everything. And I think one feeling I am getting is that Blizzard learned that responsiveness was prized, and they've kind of turned it into the main way that they manage, right? Like, there's a part of me that's like, man, if everyone is telling you they want audio countdowns, why are we waiting? And like, why are we like, oh no, we're gonna like put it in and then we'll figure it out later if we really want it. As I'm saying this out loud, the thread that I'm drawing is less clear. But I think the core argument I am feeling is like, I don't feel like we have to guinea pig everything. I feel like if the community is saying very clearly that something matters to them, telling me, oh, well, we'll look at it later. Like, let's try it as it is and we'll look at it later, doesn't necessarily feel great. Although I am also hearing the hypocrisy of the times that I have said, like, I want them to make firm decisions and not worry about what the people say. So maybe it's just, this is one thing that like I am among the people saying it and I'm like, no, don't make a firm decision here.
Yeah. A lot of good points. A lot of good points on both sides. It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. I am curious. We're going to find out very soon how it shakes out, though, because they also announced when the beta launched that we will be getting limited raid testing and some Mythic Plus testing as early as next week. And we got our raid schedule with the raid testing schedule, as always, or as has become the norm. We're not going to be testing end bosses. And I want to get into the raid schedule here in a second. But just before we do, and I'll throw it to you, Manny, to walk us through the raid testing schedule so we can get some more information on this. Before we do, I want to say a huge thank you to all of our patrons, especially Mike Taco, our newest patron. For Azeroth will always be free, but if you enjoy the content we produce, please consider pledging to our Patreon at patreon.com/FAZ. Or if you're so inclined, you could leave a review on your podcast listener of choice. And that helps the show get discovered and keeps us on the air yapping. So yeah, we have raid testing coming up. So we're going to get we're going to see implemented Blizzard's promise that raid fights will be designed with the new restrictions in place. Can't wait for that. And we're also going to see what life is like without add-ons, without weak auras. And we can hopefully, if it's turned on, it's not currently functional, but hopefully it will be for raid testing. We'll get to see combat warnings, the combat timeline, and the damage meter, which keeps gaining new functionality every build. Manny, do you want to walk us through the raid testing that's coming up?
Yeah. So it looks like they're going to have a lot to show us. This is Midnight Season 1 raids, which includes 3 different raids, if you recall. Starting on Wednesday, November 19th, we get Heroic, the Dream Rift raid. That includes Avrazian, Vorazius, and Saladar.
Do you see now why I passed this off to you?
Yeah, because the names, don't worry. Saladar is salad bar. I guess that's minor spoilers, friends. But this is going to be a lot of word salad. Thursday, November 20th, we continue heroic testing. We've got Belorin, Child of Alar. We've got Valagor and Ezrak. And if you have been on the alpha for more than a minute, you have already seen these guys. They are the Void Dragons taking flame to Silvermoon. So just look up. They're there. They're named. You can see them already. Then we have the Light Blinded Vanguard. I'm not going to explain that because that's major spoilers. Thursday, December 4th. That's the next week. We start Mythic testing. The Dream Rift will be opened again. And we have the same 3 bosses as the previous Thursday being tested again. Then on Friday, we have again Mythic testing for those same 3 bosses on Mythic difficulty. But in addition to that, Voidspire Normal will be opened up starting on the Friday and opened all the way through to the Monday, December 8th. So a lot of testing, a lot of going through there. These do not include end bosses for some of these raids. Obviously, we've got a one boss raid that's there. We've got the opening raid of the Voidspire, and then we have the March on the Sunwell, or yes, I'm not sure of that name. It's the March on some
Quel'Danas.
Quel'Danas. Thank you.
Yeah, Dream Rift is the 6-boss raid. Quel'Danas is the 2-boss raid, which has no testing. And then the Voidspire, as you mentioned, is the single boss raid that'll be open only in normal, it looks like, for that weekend.
I thought Voidspire was the first one with the raids. The Dream Rift is the one boss, and then March on Quel'Danas is the final one.
March on Quel'Danas is definitely the 2-boss raid at the end.
Wait, that's it.
You're right. You're right. Voidspire is the 6-boss raid, and Dream Rift is just one raid.
Yeah,
just one boss.
And so yeah, that testing is going to be open again. It's not just the bosses that we're excited to see; it's the fulfillment of a lot of promises, because it can only go so far with the restrictions over the add-ons if they do not do the work in the encounters to bridge that gap at this point. So I'm excited. I'm excited for that. I'm nervous for that. There's a lot riding. This will be coming again mid-November and going into December as well.
So am I correct that there's a pretty chunky break there? So, because these days are only 1-day things. It's not like the beta where the things that existed already roll over.
Yep, because U.S. Thanksgiving is a thing, and they do have that break in between that week. So yes, you are right to note that.
Yeah. So if you're like, next week, that's crazy, I can't do that. Don't worry, babe. Just come in December.
Yeah, it's coming back around in Mythic. I want to talk about, you mentioned you're nervous, Manny. I would like to just talk about some of the things that, maybe not necessarily that you're nervous about, some of the things that are not yet implemented in beta that are kind of mandatory for raiding. Yeah, so just off the top of my head, and maybe, how should we do this? Why don't you tell me? Is there anything that you could think of that's currently not yet implemented in the beta that we should have for raiding? I start Manny or Lex. I don't care who. I have a couple of things. I don't want to just list these things.
I mean, like raid frames, obviously.
Yeah, raid frames. Raid frames is a big one. Not yet implemented. So we do have data mining that the icons are in the files, but the options of different layouts doesn't exist yet, and the raid frames are still the old raid frames. So that's a big one that we would like to see on for next week.
Transmog, that's mandatory for raiding.
I mean, if you look good, you play good, right? That's got to be on there.
You know what? I'm going to throw out that if they are testing it, either we need to be able to purchase the tier and then be immediately jumped up to 90 when we get in there, or we just need to be able to make level 90 pre-mades before we start this. So that's one thing that I definitely want to see. I haven't seen, like, on the alpha we are able to like go into the raid and then we go up to 90. So I'm assuming that is likely to be the case, but I would love to have those 90s beforehand, just so people can get a kind of working feel for their classes at 90 before we go in. Beyond that, honestly, it's a lot of the things that they've said that I need the fulfillment of. I need interrupts well, I guess it's not necessarily for rating, but we've got we do have coming in week 2 and 3 of it. We do have Mythic Plus coming in, like the changes for that. Even in this build, they've made some changes so that healers do 20% more damage. I'd like to see that a little bit change, because I don't think a 20% extra damage on a Disc Priest is equal to a 20% more damage on some other classes, right? Like Monk getting that 20% more damage, hell yeah. But like Holy getting 20% more damage? I don't know. We've seen some like very generic changes where they've taken out the aura changes that they've had. So you're looking at like, if you are looking at the patch notes and you see your class getting like a 2% overall damage decrease or a 5 or 8% overall damage swap, it's just because they are flattening out an aura. You had some weird aura that was like either decreasing or increasing your damage under the hood by 8%, and they're like, let's just flatten that out and start fresh. So just calm down, guys. Enhancement Shaman, you're not like 2% nerfed. You're probably about the same, right? I think Death Knights was one that got like 8% or something. One of the specs, I think it was Frost. It's not to like take Frost out back and shoot it. Don't worry, you're good. And then I'm hoping that the picking up threat at the beginning and that being an easier, smooth thing for tanks is working as intended, because you just have less buttons, less function to like make up for those sort of things. So there's just like, I'm looking for the fulfillment of a lot of things that they said were coming. But in terms of add-ons testing a raid, the logs are still there. So even if I don't have like the direct damage meters in there, I don't need the damage meters. I can grab logs and be fine for like getting information as I so need to peruse through that. We've already talked about raid frames. I think that that's a big one. I'm hoping that the cooldown manager in terms of externals is there, because I feel like that is just something that, like, in terms of coordinating, especially if these are groups that aren't like set teams, like of course those guys who race the world first, they're gonna know to do all the call outs and they're gonna be listening for that and they're not gonna be done. Stupid me, like I might throw.
I actually think we all collectively misunderstood what Blizzard said when we thought they were giving us what we asked for. So they took away our ability to see everybody's cooldowns and stuff, and healers and DPS and tanks as a unit were like, listen, it would be really good if we could at the very least see when somebody has defensives available, defensives available high in the sky, but at the very least externals that they can assign to somebody. And then within the next week or two, Blizzard came back and said, hey, we thought about it. We're going to let you guys track external defensives. And we all thought that meant they're going to let us see when Pain Sup is available. But the implementation in the game is just that they're going to show you when you have Pain Sup on you. Yeah. So we all collectively were like, oh, they listened and they're giving us this. This is great. No. And they were like, no.
I'm going to give you and Lex the
I don't just mean
100%, but I know you're talking about community wise, but like literally you and Lex, when we were talking last week, and I was just like, oh yeah, so your personal cooldowns are now visible, and so like that would mean that Hikeli can run, and you guys were both like, no Manny, shaking your heads, because the cooldowns are still a hidden value, and that means that you cannot know for sure if something is getting cooldown reduction or comes back up, that sort of thing, and it has to be tracked with the internal cooldown manager. But that's exactly the kind of thing where it's like, hey, I sent Pain Sup, is it going to be available in 2 minutes? And because you, like, even if you know your Pain Sup is available, no add-on can talk to each other in combat. Those channels are shut down when you're in the middle of an instance or when you're in the middle of an encounter. So you can't send, hey, my Pain Sup's back up. You can't send...
Blizzard can build it in to tell us. That's what we thought they were doing.
And so, like, that's what we're saying. Like, we thought it was there, but you guys said, no, you cannot do that last week.
Can I not...
No, we're talking about two different things.
Can I reveal myself as a surprisingly different style of idiot? When we were talking about, like, you can track external defensives, I did understand that it like defensives, you can track them now. I did understand that they just meant that you were gonna, like, it was gonna be presented. And I was like, I'm really surprised you guys were so excited about that. I thought, like, obviously it's gonna show you in a buffs up. So I didn't understand what you guys wanted them to do.
Yeah. But I will say, when I was raiding at when I was pushing harder in raids. And I had a really great raid lead. Not to say that my raid lead is not really great. They pushed us through Mythic, and so they are definitely able to do it. It's just that in this last tier, schedules and everything, they were like, no, we're only doing heroic. But having a raid leader or that 21st person who was doing those call outs and saying like, hey, Lex, you're sending your cooldown for the next one, blah, 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 you're on plate. That kind of raid calls that is now automated, I do kind of miss that. And I don't think that, as long as it's not coming in such a flurry, again, that information overload, right? To have that come back will distinguish skill. Even in, and especially in guilds with different abilities. Because if you've seen Undaunted raid, because I've done Race to World First coverage where we were doing it with the dojo when we were looking at less represented guilds, and one of those guilds was Undaunted. And seeing them do the calls, and they all have on their screen just like a little picture-in-picture, and there's the raid leader, and they are signing and they are doing different things to do these call-outs because they can't rely so much upon other things, right? But even at a at-home level, having your raid leader be like, Sean, use your defensive. Everybody, pop your defenses for this one. For the next one, we're using Healing Tide or Spirit Loop or whatever, right? Hey, we're all going to be snared. So, let's get your roar from Druid number 4. Shaman number 3, you're going to use your Windrush Totem on the next one. That kind of coordination used to be far more commonplace. It is more automated at the top end and just less present in general at the lower end.
Manny. Frack those pugs. They shouldn't get to raid anyway.
And
I do want to point out one thing.
What they do with Fractos.
Yeah, well, that doesn't get cut. Frack is good. Oh yeah, Fractals. Yeah. I do want to say one thing that we haven't mentioned that is missing that we can't do yet. That I think next to raid frames is the next most mandatory item that needs to be implemented, and I'm terrified it won't because they're not even talking about it. Some way to track debuffs. Right now, the only way to know if you have a debuff on you is to look next to your mini map where all of your other debuffs are and all of your buffs are.
Move
to track
that
if you have. But Manny, there's no way to filter it. So it tracks Time Warp. It tracks if you're a Death Knight and you used Purgatory. It tracks all of those things. Like it is a terrible, terrible, terrible way to track debuffs. That needs to be fixed. The cooldown manager has a buff tracker. Just add another row for debuffs.
Okay, so here's the thing. Add the row for debuffs, right? So I can track my important personal debuffs, right? And then on the debuff things, allow me to filter it so it is only externals. I do not want a duplication, right? And I want the ability to just be like, in PvP, these are the debuffs that I have on me from everybody else. I don't care about my own ones because I'm tracking that in the cooldown manager, right? I want just a single bar, even if it's a separate debuff tracker that is just, or a toggle where I go, I only want external debuffs to be tracked. I do not care about my internal ones because I will track that separately.
I think that is another issue just that's kind of inherent to the ethos that Blizzard is giving us, because I'm sitting here trying to think of even how they would give you what you're looking for, Sean, and like
it's not possible.
Right. Because they wouldn't I guess they could let you like
possible debuff from every mob in the game.
Right. Exactly. Because if they're telling you they don't want it to be possible for these things to make decisions for you. I mean, I guess they could do what they love to do, which is the like important and less important, which is a bad system. And if I don't have granularity control over that, I frequently disagree with the DBM makers of what's important and what's not. And so I simply do not think I'm going to agree with Blizzard more. So I think when I was thinking of this, I think the thing they could probably do the closest to what you're looking for would be to give you the opportunity to to go in and manually turn off like you can do a debuff tracker and then like remove time warp and remove like your internal debuffs. So I can see that being possible, but you'd have to do that for every single boss by hand.
Or just have 2 debuff trackers. One debuff tracker is debuffs that are instituted by players and items, and the other one is debuffs that are applied by enemies. And then the debuffs applied by enemies you put down next to your unit frame so you can see if you have a debuff on you from a boss or from a mob or a bleed or a poison or whatever. And then leave the player-initiated debuffs, your time warp, your forbearance up by the minimap because they're fine there. That would be the way to do it. They're going to need to differentiate debuffs from enemies versus debuffs generated by players. And they're not even talking about it. So the only way you're going to have to know if you have a debuff is by hoping that whatever they put on your character in the middle of your screen, you can see. I hope just don't be a melee, I guess. Don't be a melee player. I can't see them now. And I have air horns that go off when I get them. And I still don't know when I have stuff on me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So like more visible debuffs, including full screen effects. That's something that they've said, right? If it is important that they want you to know about it, that they want you to deal with it, that, right? Having a full screen effect is a damn good way of doing it. If they want you to know that you need to spread out from everybody else, that big circle around you, right, is a good one. But I also I think that's something that that players have said in the Discord that I think that they should do is further clarify spell effects in the game. I do love how you can tell what a meteor is, right? What to soak in, what to avoid, what is going to push you one way or another, like force movement in Final Fantasy XIV. It doesn't need to be exactly like that. Final Fantasy XIV, every boss looks like you're on a disco floor and not actually like fighting some mythological creature. I think there is some immersion breaking that's happening there, and I think that Blizzard has always said that gameplay is king, that gameplay matters. And so if I've got to choose between a little immersion break so that a mechanic is clear and less frustrating, right, I'm going to go that way. And so I'd like that. That said, again, if a debuff is on me and I need to react to it without like DBM or weak auras or whatever screaming at me 5 minutes before I enter a fight that I need to watch out for this, also being able to have a little bit of grace to react to it is another part on it. And that's part of the design that they need to put into this. And that's not something that is going to be just with the raids that we're testing coming up in these upcoming weeks, but also going forward. Because once you do it, you have to keep doing it. You screw it up in tier 2 of this expansion or tier 2 and 5 expansions from now, you've made this problem for yourself, Blizzard. It's on you. Right? And so as much forgiveness or benefit of the doubt I'm willing to extend Blizzard in terms of moving in this direction, you've put the workload on yourself. You need to hit it every time going forward now because you've removed other people's ability to compensate for your mistakes. That's
Yep. We know it can be done. Dementius is a fantastic fight that requires no weak aura, like Mythic Dementius. You require no weak auras for it. Everything is visually clear to understand. Even though the majority of the mechanics are purple on purple, it's still very easy to see what is what, where goes where, with the exception of gravities and your overlapping devours when you make those puddles. But that's even still playable. So you can do it. I don't understand why we live in a world where you show us that you can do that and then you still give us Fractalus. That is infuriating to me. It's like, no, I totally get it. It's like your kid coming home early instead of 2 hours past their curfew. It's like, no, we can do that.
No. What it is that they're like, oh, I really want to do this. Like, you can't do that anymore. They're like, just give me one boss. I just want to screw with those weak aura kids one more time. And they're like, all right, fine, you can do Fractalus. And that's what we got, friends. That's what we got.
We'll see. We're going to find out next week. That's the exciting part. We're going to find out next week. Raid testing is next week. Get in there. Jump on the beta. There'll be lots of groups going in LFG if you want to get in. There'll be lots of pre-made groups. actually get in there and have a look and see if Blizzard does all of the things that they've told us they're going to do. I'm excited to find out. I can't wait. Do try to go in with an open mind. Don't go in expecting them not to hit the mark, because they won't if you expect that. So try to go in with an open mind. And then when they don't hit the mark, then you can be upset. Or be pleasantly surprised when everything was good.
Yep. But with that said, we've been talking for an hour, and Hearthsteel is still a thing. So until next time, may all your hits be crits.